Guess who's got a new microphone? Now I can do this. What's up? And this. I'm speaking from the other side of the room. And even this. Lollipop, lollipop, la la la, lollipop, lollipop, lollipop. Hello and welcome everyone, how's it going? Toby here with a new microphone bringing you another guide, Barbarian. Timestamps of course in the description, along with the links where you can donate me monies or just disable ad block for my channel, whatever rocks your boat. Also huge thanks to Ubiogesh for providing me with a lot of hard to find info on barbarians and pretty much making this video possible. Now then, without further ado, let's jump straight into the video. Oh shit, I forgot. Rule number 1 of playing Barbarian. Caps lock. A real barbarian is a caps lock named Barbarian. Okay, so first topic, why play Barbarian in the first place? I suppose mostly to compensate for the fact that we're all fat sitting in front of our monitors who will never be half as buff as this pixelated, drop-dead, gorgeous character running in front of us. Or if you're like me and you're beautiful both on the inside and the outside.
I'm sexy and I know it.
Yep, that's me. Had a fun Diablo 2 themed party just a while ago. Turns out role-playing Barbarian is quite fun. So yeah, do you expect some more pictures from it in this video? And let's go back to the video. Or if you're like me and you're beautiful both on the inside and the outside, because he's fun to play. In all seriousness, he's somewhere in the middle of the pack when it comes to playing hardcore. He's not as safe as Necromancer or Assassin, but he's right after them along with perhaps Druid. His damage is on the lower side for sure, but you can pass hardcore fairly cheaply. There's like 2 to 3 items you really need, and that's it. Another thing making Barbarian an amazing pick is the fact that he can do Ubers with crappy gear while staying reasonably safe, which is especially important for hardcore. And probably lastly is that he's number 1 or at the worst case scenario 2 for the very end game magic finding. So, subclasses. Surprisingly, Barbarian might just have the most variety when it comes to subclasses, for the initial playthrough at least. You can go with Whirlwind, Concentrate, Frenzy, I'm sure even Throwing and Berserk are viable without good gear, just not as good. So let's do a quick overview of these subclasses. First up, Berserker, massive damage and 0 defense. Hardcore certified. On the other hand, a build called Pitzerker, in other words, a Berserker running in pits, is literally the best build in the entire game out of all classes for the very end game farming. Barbarian has amazing faster cast rate frames on par with a Sorceress, so teleporting with Enigma and one-shotting everything with Berserk, since no magic immunities are possible, in pits, to then hork all the corpses turns out to be the fastest way to getting all those hard to find uniques like Tyrael's Might, Death's Fathom, and so on. So with that in mind, there's also a subclass called Singer Barbarian. He sucks overall since he only deals damage with Warcry, which really is 0 damage, but he's pretty close in effectiveness when it comes to farming pits. What can I say? Horking is OP. Concentration Barb. Tons of damage. Safest build for a playthrough, useless otherwise. Frenzy Barb, my favorite one, needs very little gear to do just fine. I did a Player's Aid hardcore challenge and all I needed was a Treachery for increased attack speed and resistances, Lawbringer for Decrepify, and Ravenfrost for Cannot Be Frozen. That's it, the rest of my gear sucked. I had like a G-Phase, Gore Riders, High Lords, random gloves, and I did just fine. And that's on Player's 8 in hardcore. Imagine how little you would need for Player's 1. Whirlwind Barbarian. Oh boy, where do I even start with this one? It's one bug mother... But I'll get into it in the skills section. As for the build in general, it's probably the best Barbarian late game build in terms of clear speed, but it's also the most gear dependent. Fun fact about it is that it is absolutely magnificent with the Immortal King set, therefore making Barbarian arguably the only class properly utilizing a full class set. Sure, there's Mavina's Ice Maiden and Talrash's Sorceress, but Immortal King Barbarian is on a different level when it comes to clear speed. Throwing Barb is kind of a troll build, it can work but I've never really played it, so I'd rather not go into much detail about something I don't know myself. Skills. Howl. Amazing once you get a couple of extra plus skills on your gear. This is the skill that makes you extremely safe and also allows Singer and Berserker to be the magic finding machines they are known for. Taunt. Your bread and butter skill when you have shitty gear or when you're playing hardcore. You can taunt monsters from an entire screen away and they come running into melee range to fight you. Burning Souls, Harpies, Archers with Cursed Extra Strong and Fanaticism? You probably know this feeling. All that nasty shit come running into melee range without attacking while doing so. Always be taunting. Seriously, spam this all the time. Battle Cry.
Battle Cry.
It's a good spell early on, but later you'll want to have curses on your opponents like Life Tap or Decrepify or even Amplify damage. And Battle Cry does override all of those. It's useful, just not as good later in the game. War Cry. Forget this skill exists, unless you're playing Singer. I saw some guys recommending leveling this and actually using it, but I'm yet to find where I could use this. The stun is kind of nice, but I'd rather have the Decrepify having in mind how short the War Cry radius is. Shout, Battle Orders and Battle Command are the signature spells of Barbarians. Obviously use them and max out Battle Orders for all subclasses. Find Item is another exceptionally useful skill. If you're making a playthrough, probably spend just 1 point into it, but for magic finding builds like Berserker or Singer, you need to get it up to 55 or 56%. It depends on your gear. Fun fact about Find Item is that it ignores the monster's no drop chance, so if you have it at 50%, that means you'll get an extra drop 50% of the time, even if the monster originally had 99% chance for no drop. The value is huge, especially when farming something like Travangle. Council members will have a fairly high no drop chance when players 1, but you instantly decrease it to 50%. That's amazing. Grimoire. It could be useful, I haven't really played with it too much, it just doesn't sound amazing. Mastery page is pretty simple, 1 point into speed and stamina, 1 point into defense and resistances, and 20 points into whichever weapon type you're using. There's really no alternatives here apart from some crazy scenarios where you need to pump a few more points into resistances or defense. Oh, and Scepters do get bonus from Mace Mastery. They only don't count as maces for rune words. Guess that's kind of worth mentioning. Combat skills. The interesting part finally. Bash, Double Swing, Leap Attack and Stun are skills you can't forget, not worth spending time on it as you'll never be using them once you get access to more skills. Leap. Your Get Away from Jail free card, a 1 point wonder. It also knocks back your opponents, absolutely amazing. You can also jump over walls in jail level or Act 3 sewers. Perhaps they don't have ceilings. I don't know, feels silly either way. But yeah, overall an incredibly useful skill, I suggest getting used to it. Double Swing and Frenzy. Double Swing after putting some points into it requires close to 0 mana, and that's why people recommend using it along with Frenzy. In reality, you should never have mana issues with Barbarian with maxed out battle orders, so feel free to forget Double Swing exists. Especially if you're running Angelic Set Amulet and Ring, the Amulet provides you with 20% damage taken goes to mana, so whenever you're taking damage, 20% of it comes back to you as mana. Frenzy on the other hand is an amazing skill, you feel like a Formula 1 with this one. It's worth mentioning you do want a bit of attack speed despite how much Frenzy gives you, just to ramp it up faster. There's 2 more noteworthy things about Frenzy. First of all, it's uninterruptible, so that's really nice. Secondly, the Berserk synergy to Frenzy actually replaces a portion of the physical damage into magical instead of adding additional. So with level 20 Berserk, you'll deal the same damage with Frenzy, but 20% of the damage will be magic. and the remaining 80% physical. Concentrate and Berserk don't seem to have any weird interactions, or at least I'm not aware of them. Feel free to correct me in the comments, I'll be happy to add a pinned message below the video. I guess it's worth mentioning that Decrepify and Amplify damage don't do a thing for Berserk, since all of your damage is converted to magical. And that is also why Berserk is a one-point wonder for all other subclasses to take care of immunities. Whirlwind. Now, that's a tough one. First of all, increased attack speed on anything but your weapon doesn't increase your attack speed. Same as with Fury Druid, I suppose. Next up, cannot be frozen is actually useless. Being chilled doesn't decrease your attack speed, only movement speed for Whirlwind. For some weird interaction which I don't really get. Another thing you might want to keep in mind is keeping your Whirlwind short to be able to reposition yourself frequently, because you can't drink pods during Whirlwind, so you might end up dying if your Whirlwind takes too long. I think your health actually can't drop below 1 HP while in the middle of Whirlwind, so in theory you should be able to save and quit in those cases, but don't quote me on that. Lastly, Chance to Strike doesn't work, so Draco's with its life tab becomes useless, and so does something like Lawbringer or Reaper's Toll on yourself. But yeah, even with all this randomness, it's still a fun fidget spinner skill.
Forgive me.
Gear. Well, it's a bit of a clusterfuck since I decided to make a video on a class and include all subclasses in it. Not really possible to go through all gear options in a 10-minute video, so I'll just go through a couple of budget and sometimes overlooked options. The stats you're looking for are kind of obvious: Crushing Blow, Deadly Strike, Attack Speed, Resistances, Health, Enhanced Damage, blah blah blah, the usual. Faster hit recovery though doesn't matter for Frenzy, Concentrate and Whirlwind, but Berserk can be interrupted, so I guess that's something a bit different from other subclasses. Anyway, going into actual items, here's a couple of GG suggestions starting with weapons. Grief. Whirlwind Barb, Grief. Frenzy Barb, Grief. Concentrate Barb, Grief. Throwing Barb, still Grief, cause normal attacks with Grief will still be better than throwing with any other weapon. You get the point. Grief. Unless you make it in a 4-slotted Phase Blade. Fuck. Alright, let's get serious. Another amazing weapon is Lawbringer. The damage is meh, but it's a source of Decrepify, and suddenly your damage goes through the roof. Well, not exactly, but at least you can get the job done now. It's also a bit better to have a source of Decrepify on yourself than on your Mercenary, since it's a bit more reliable that way. Personally, I absolutely love this item. It's extremely cheap, and coupled with Raven Frost for Cannot Be Frozen and Treachery for attack speed and resistances, it's pretty much enough to pass the entire health difficulty on Hardcore and Player's 8. That's just insane. If you're dual wielding, you want to couple this with a high physical damage weapon, a reasonable budget option is like a Head Striker. At higher levels you'll get 100% Deadly Strike with a reasonable attack speed. Other great but still fairly cheap options include Oath. It should be made in Ethereal Colossus Blade or Colossus Sword, Balrog Blade. The damage is pretty good, the other mods are useful as well. Something like Rune Master is also an interesting option since it provides the Cannot Be Frozen mod, so it allows you some interesting modifications to your gear if needed in the ring slot, like a Wisp Projector perhaps. On Switch you probably want Demon Limb for the enchant, which provides a huge boost to your attack rating, or Double Knives with +3 to Warcries. For Whirlwind, the cheapest good option is a two-handed club, Bone Snap. It has an absolutely massive 40% Crushing Blow, pretty much providing all the Crushing Blow you'll ever need. It's also a normal item, therefore very easy to find as early as a normal difficulty, and then you can up it twice for a huge boost to your damage. It has 300% enhanced damage mod, so it scales really well with higher base damage. Helmet. This one, and I won't even bother trying to pronounce it, it's a noob trap, don't fall for it, and especially don't watch the end of this video. Anyway, not really any alternatives here. The Ariad's face is nice on paper, but you kind of don't really need these mods as good as they are. So G-Face with its Deadly Strike, Crushing Blow and Strength, that's just too much to pass up. Armor. Treachery for Frenzy, Concentrate, Berserk and Throw Barb is a very nice option. Takes care of resistances, damage reduction, as well as attack speed. Really hard to beat that. For Whirlwind, obviously attack speed is useless on armor, so go with Duras. Shields. Don't be a pussy, you're a barbarian. Gloves. Dracul's only for Ubers, elsewhere either these green 350% enhanced damage puppies or crafted with attack speed and crushing blow. That's not a very good example, but you get the point. With that said, it's going to take you a long while until you get your hands on something better than laying on hands, so just use them. Belt. String of Years is the most common option for the damage reduction and lifesteal. Nosferatus is an interesting option with the slows target by 10% and increased attack speed. And then of course you have Thunder Gods for specific areas where you can get Burning Souls. Something like Vendungos isn't that great for a Barbarian in my opinion. Boots. Pretty much Gore Riders only. Crushing Blow, Deadly Strike, good luck beating that. Goblin's Toes are a cheaper alternative as they do provide Crushing Blow as well, but they're simply a weaker option because they have no Deadly Strike. Amulet. Angelic Amulet with Angelic Ring is a fantastic duo to take care of attack rating issues which are crucial. You always want to be hitting at over 80% rate. Other alternatives are Metal Grid and High Lords. As for rings, Raven Frost is the obvious one. Wisp Projector and Nature's Peace are very situational when dealing with Burning Souls and Nilafab. And then a rare ring with Dual Leech, some attack rating and other stats is also a nice option. Stats. Just real quick, pretty much the same drill as always. Strength and dexterity for items, the rest into energy. Actually, you can put some more into strength if you're playing softcore and want to go full glass cannon. The bonus from strength to your damage is significant, and since you already have massive battle orders to boost your life, you could go pure strength even. Mercenary. It's actually of little importance to barbarians, probably Act 2 Might Mercenary makes the most sense, just for a slight bump in damage. It won't be huge, but you can squeeze out like 500 extra or so. Give him some high damage weapon or a Reaper stole if you're whirlwinding, and you're good to go. Obviously Act 1 Mercenary with Faith works quite well, but let's be real over here, if you're watching this video, you're probably not rich enough to afford it. Anyway, that wraps up this guide. I think I touched all the main points. Please do let me know if I missed something, and I do hope you folks enjoyed it. And if you did, you know the drill.
Like, subscribe, become a patron, turn off ad block, join the Discord, send memes.
I wasn't supposed to say that. Anyhow, thank you guys for watching. Hope you all have a lovely day, and see you guys in my next video. Cheers! Hey, you sound just like this guy smashing that subscribe button after seeing this video. Gillium's face. Joylom's face. Guilum face? Guilum face? Guilum face. Gillium's face? Gillium's?